soul. I can feel his hand in mine. That's all I need to know.
Life has this way of throwing us curveballs when we least expect them. One day, everything feels normal. You're going about your routine, maybe sipping coffee, talking to your family, scrolling through your phone, and then something happens that changes everything. It's the kind of news that hits you in the chest, stops your world for a moment, and makes everything else fade into the background. That's the kind of moment people are having right now as they come to terms with the passing of brother Jimmy Swaggart. If you've heard his name before, then you already know he wasn't just some ordinary person. He was a preacher, yes. A man of God. A voice of encouragement and truth for so many. But he was also something more personal to those who really knew him. He was a husband. A father. A friend. A mentor. A man who lived his life trying to help people find faith, hope, and healing. Jimmy Swaggart lived to be 90 years old. And when you stop and think about that, 90 years, that's an incredible stretch of time. It's a lifetime filled with stories, experiences, ups and downs, joy and sorrow. He saw the world change in ways most of us can't even imagine. He lived through so much and never stopped doing what he felt called to do, share the word of God through preaching and music. But while so many of us knew the public side of Jimmy, the man on stage, the voice behind the microphone, there was someone who knew him in a different way. Someone who knew the private side of him. That someone is his wife, Frances. Frances and Jimmy spent decades together. Not just a few years, not just a chapter of life, but a whole book. A full, shared life. She stood beside him through the brightest moments and the darkest days. And when you've lived that much life with someone, losing them isn't just sad, it's life-shattering. You don't just lose a person, you lose your rhythm, your routine, your other half. That's what Frances is facing now. To the world, Jimmy Swaggart might have been a preacher or a singer. But to Frances, he was the man who always made her feel safe. He was the one who held her hand during hard times, who made her smile when the world felt heavy, who bowed his head beside her in prayer when words were too hard to say out loud. She's grieving now, not the public figure that so many people looked up to, but the man she built a life with. The one who made her morning coffee. The one who could make her laugh even after a long, stressful day. The one who knew her heart better than anyone else on this earth. That kind of loss is deep. It's not something that heals quickly or easily. Right now, Frances is feeling a flood of emotions. There's grief, yes, but also love. So much love. The kind of love that doesn't go away when someone passes. It stays, quietly, like a light in your heart. She also feels respect. Deep, sincere respect for a man who gave his all not just to her, but to his calling. Jimmy Swaggart wasn't perfect, none of us are, but he was committed. He was driven. He believed deeply in what he was doing, and he poured his life into it. Frances wants the world to remember that Jimmy, not just the one on stage in front of a crowd, but the one who stayed up late working on his sermons. The one who sat down at the piano, not to perform, but to praise. The one who never forgot to say I love you at the end of a phone call. The one who showed up, not just when the cameras were rolling, but in the quiet moments too. She wants people to know how kind he was. How thoughtful. How much he cared, not just about her, but about everyone he came across. Jimmy had a way of making people feel seen and heard, even when they were just one face in a crowd. He listened. He noticed. And he carried people's pain in his heart, even when it didn't show on the surface. That's the man Frances loved. And that's the man she's mourning. But even in her grief, there's something beautiful. Frances isn't just remembering the sadness of losing him. She's holding on to the beauty of their life together. The love, the laughter, the shared dreams. All those little moments that added up to a lifetime. She's remembering the man who made her feel strong, who reminded her every day that she was loved, who stood beside her in faith, no matter what came their way. It's never easy to lose someone you love. No matter how old they were, no matter how full their life was, the goodbye still stings. But what Francis is reminding us is that real love, the deep kind that lasts through decades, it doesn't end. It transforms. It becomes memory, legacy, and a quiet strength you carry with you forever. So as people all over the world remember Jimmy Swaggart for his preaching, his music, and his ministry, Francis is remembering him for something even deeper. She's remembering him as the man who loved her with his whole heart. And she wants us all to understand, that's the part of Jimmy Swaggart that truly made him great. Not the spotlight, not the stage, but the love he gave so freely, the faith he lived by, and the life he shared with her. You know, there's something incredibly powerful about hearing someone speak from the heart, especially when that heart is grieving. Frances Swaggart, the wife of brother Jimmy Swaggart, has been through something most of us can't even begin to imagine. She didn't just lose her husband, she lost her partner, her teammate, her constant. And yet, through her pain, she's been able to share something truly meaningful, something that goes beyond the sorrow and reaches deep into the truth about love, life, and what it means to really see someone. Frances's story teaches us something we don't hear enough. Real respect isn't about putting someone on a pedestal or pretending they're perfect. It's about knowing them completely, seeing their strengths and their flaws, and choosing to love them anyway. That's what makes her story so relatable, so raw, and so important. Because when she talks about Jimmy, she's not just honoring his achievements, she's honoring his humanity. And that's something we can all learn from. She once said something so simple, but it really sticks with you. Jimmy taught me that respect and love go together. You can't have one without the other. That hits deep. Think about it, how many times do we say we love someone, but forget to show them respect? Or we admire someone, but don't take the time to understand who they truly are? Francis reminds us that real love, lasting love, isn't just about grand gestures or romantic moments. It's about respect. It's about standing beside someone not just during the easy days, but also when life is messy, complicated, and hard. Whether it's in your friendships, your relationships, or even with your family, this truth holds strong. Love and respect go hand in hand. One without the other just isn't enough. That's what Francis and Jimmy had. A deep connection built on truth, faith, and mutual respect. And because of that, their love didn't just last a lifetime, it left a legacy. When Francis talks about those final days with Jimmy, there's a softness in her voice. You can hear it, even if she doesn't say it out loud, the ache of letting go, mixed with the beauty of being able to be there for him until the very end. Those days were filled with quiet moments. Some were spoken, filled with memories and shared stories. Others were completely silent, just the two of them sitting close, holding hands, letting the quiet speak volumes. And that silence? It wasn't empty. It was full. Full of love. Full of understanding. Full of peace that only comes from knowing someone that deeply. Frances remembers those moments as some of the most precious of her life. They didn't need to say much, because they already knew everything they needed to know. That's the kind of connection that goes beyond words. As Jimmy's health started to decline, it became clear that their time together was coming to an end. His body was getting weaker, but his spirit? That never faded. Francis talks about how, even when he could barely move, Jimmy still had this peaceful smile. That little sparkle in his eyes never left. He still looked at her with love, the kind that doesn't fade, not even when life is slipping away. And what's even more touching is that, in his weakest moments, Jimmy was still thinking about Frances. Even though he needed help, he was still trying to comfort her. That's who he was. One quiet day, when the room felt still and calm, he looked at her and gave her a soft smile. Just one look, but in it, she felt something powerful. It was like he was saying, "It's okay. I'm at peace. I'm ready." And in that moment, so was she. She felt peace too. Not because it was easy, but because she knew their love had carried them all the way to the end. Faith was always the foundation of their relationship. It's what brought them together, and it's what held them together through every challenge. In those final days, that faith became even more important. They prayed together constantly, not just for healing, but for strength, for courage, for peace. Frances said, "Our prayers brought us closer and gave me comfort." Their faith was like a warm blanket, wrapping around them when everything else felt cold and uncertain. They weren't alone either. Family, friends, and loved ones gathered around them, offering hugs, quiet support, kind words. Just knowing people were there made the pain a little easier to carry. Frances remembers how much those little things meant. Sometimes, you don't need big speeches or grand gestures, just someone showing up and being present is enough. One memory she holds closest to her heart happened on a quiet evening, just the two of them. The lights were low, the room calm. Jimmy looked at her and simply said how much he loved her and how thankful he was to have her by his side. Frances will never forget that. Those words are like a precious jewel she carries with her now. They remind her that, even though he's gone, the love they shared is still very much alive. Saying goodbye wasn't easy. It never is. Those last moments together were some of the hardest Frances has ever faced. But even through her tears, she felt something else, gratitude. "I'm glad I could be with Jimmy in his last days," she said. And you can hear the sincerity in her voice. She doesn't have to wonder if he knew she loved him. He did. She was right there, every step of the way. Even now, after Jimmy has passed, Frances says she still feels him close by. Sometimes it's in a song that randomly plays on the radio. Sometimes it's a breeze that gently brushes her cheek. And sometimes it's just a quiet moment that feels like he's saying, "I'm still here." These small, simple signs remind her that love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. It lingers. Frances finds strength in remembering the good times. The laughter. The joy. The prayers. The quiet nights. She believes with her whole heart that love like theirs doesn't just end when someone dies. It goes on. It lives in the people we become because of it. She says, our bond lasts forever. And it's easy to believe her, because the love in her voice is real. You can feel it. Those final days weren't about saying the perfect things or making big speeches. They were about being there. Just being together. That was enough. That's what true love looks like. It stays. It endures. It doesn't walk away when things get tough. It stays until the very end. Now, Frances is learning how to live without Jimmy by her side. There are hard days. There are days when the silence is too loud, when the memories feel both comforting and painful at the same time. But she's holding on to the love he left behind. His faith. His message. His heart. And she's using that to keep going. She wants anyone who's grieving to know something important. It's okay to feel everything. To cry. To smile. To be angry. To feel hopeful and heartbroken all at once. That's what real love does, it leaves a mark. It changes you. And that's okay. That's normal.